failure is unavoidable, definitely, if you want to succeed, because failure is part of success. You cannot, it is impossible for you to succeed at anything without failing first. Okay, so failure is part of life. So if we see it as that, then it removes the big stigma on it, because that's one of the reasons people are afraid of failure, you know. Number two, failure is not your enemy. Actually, failure is your friend, because it's highlighting to you things that need to change. And it's a good friend. It's a good friend that tells you the truth. Number three, there is really no failure, only lessons learned. Failure is not final, but giving up is. So what that says to me is you fail only when you say you failed. Welcome, 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 wherever you may be watching us from. Welcome to another episode of Future Fit. Guess what? This is the 10th episode. Believe it or not, we only wanted to do 5. When we started off, we said we're going to do 5. And here we are, 10. So awesome. Great to have you join us on Future Fit. Here we learn and grow together because we want to be equipped to create and design our future. So we're talking future by design, not by default. That's what Future Fit is all about. It's all about getting ready for that emerging future, making sure we're ready and prepared for it. So welcome, everyone. Here it's been raining. I don't mind the rain too much, to be honest, but it's been raining. But today, it's actually disturbed us because we were planning on having a barbecue. Very impromptu barbecue. My husband had gone jogging and ran into some of our neighbors, and they got to talking, and believe it or not, on the spur of the moment, they decided, oh, we should have a barbecue, you know? So we're going to have a barbecue today, but that's not going to happen now because of the rain. Well, I think that's just awesome. I don't know about you, but in my experience anyway, that is not normal for Brits, okay? That is just not what we do. To run into your neighbors and the next thing on your mind is how you get together and have a barbecue and spend time with each other. That's just not, I don't think it's quite common. But I personally think it's probably one of the good things that's come out of lockdown. I think people are just more mindful of others. We're just more caring. We care more for our communities. We're just more people minded now, and we're connecting more with people, which is a good thing. It really is a great thing. So that was going to happen today, but it's not going to happen now. So we are going to look forward to doing it next Saturday and just pray that the weather holds up. Today we've got a great show as usual. Awesome show. We're going to be facing those fears, those lies, those beliefs, those things that prevent us from really going for what we want. And they force us to settle. Don't settle. Don't ever settle. They force us to settle. And today we want to be addressing those issues. We want to be looking at them. But we have a great guest as well today. We have an awesome guest who's going to be with us. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about Heidi in a minute, but you're going to be inspired as usual. Okay, so today we're talking about emotions. Okay, some people get moody when it rains. Some people get more joyful in summer. You know, so I suppose that's why we love to talk about the weather so much, because it does affect us. I think it does affect us. And emotions are very powerful. Emotions are very powerful things. I don't know if you've noticed, but when you go into a store, to, you know, a closed store, for instance, especially on a Friday, when you go into a closed store, guess what? They're playing party music. Do you know why? Because they're getting you in the mood for a party. And you're in the store, you're bobbing your head away, and you're thinking, you're imagining yourself in that lovely dress. And so they're getting your emotions going. Trust me, that's what they're doing. They're getting your emotions going because they understand that we live. Our emotions have it plays a big role in the decisions we make. We all love to think we're very logical, we're very sensible, you know, we take all the facts into account and we make a decision. But trust me, we make decisions more out of our emotions than anything else. So emotions are very powerful. And today we're going to be looking at one of those emotions, I think, that is a real, it can be a strength or a weakness, but for most people, it's a weakness. So we're going to be looking at those things, you know, fears. We're going to be looking at fears and fears and beliefs that stop us from doing what we know we could be doing. Fears and beliefs that stop us from pursuing our dreams. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to ask you as you join us, if you can think of anything, maybe from your own personal journey that has stopped you from doing what, you know, what was in your heart to do. Maybe you had a dream, maybe, you know, an idea came up and then you thought, oh, you know, the funny thing is once ideas pop up, objections pop up as well. If you can identify with that, just let me know. Just saying that in the comments, I identify. Once ideas pop up, objections pop up. You see, when you're just coasting, when you don't have any dreams, you don't have any aspirations, you're just going with the flow, just doing what everybody else is doing, there's no resistance, there's no objections, it's just nothing. But the minute you get a thought, the minute an inspired thought comes into your mind, the minute you say, I want to do something different, I want to jump, I want to go here, I want to do that, immediately objections come. Immediately resistance comes. So that should say something to you. That should say something to you. But if you identify with that, if you have been in that place where you had a thought and you thought, oh, that would be nice, or oh, couldn't we do that? And then immediately objections come and start to, you know, when I say objections, I mean things like, how are you going to do that? Have you ever done it before? Where are you going to get the money? Who's going to join you? All those objections, when they start to pop up, if you've ever had that experience, then please let us know. But today I want to talk about fears and beliefs that prevent us from pursuing our dreams. Because I've said it time and time and time again on Future Fit, you are more than you are right now. There is more for you than you have right now. There is a future waiting for you to grab hold of it, for you to, like I said, design it. And I don't want us to go into our future, especially coming out of COVID-19. I don't want us to go into our future not just being intentional in creating the sort of future that we want for ourselves. So that's why we do Future Fit. And I know, like I said, that fear is one of the big things that prevent people from moving forward. So fear of criticism. Some of us are afraid to be criticized. We don't want people to talk about us, you know? We're afraid of what people will say. So you don't step out, you don't do what you want to do because you're afraid of what people will say. You're afraid they might think you're making a fool of yourself, or that you're afraid. I heard this young girl talking about a cousin of hers who became a YouTuber. And she said they were at a party and everybody was talking about this cousin that had become a YouTuber. And everybody was saying, have you seen what so-and-so's been doing on YouTube, making a fool of himself? And everybody was talking about him. Now he's a very popular YouTuber, has hundreds of thousands of followers. And guess what? They're still talking about him, but in a different light. So don't worry too much is what I will say about what people say about you or the fact that people are talking about you. Okay, now in the first place, let me just say, they're not even talking about you. Reminds me of a joke. This man said, when I was 20, I worried what people thought about me. When I was 30, I didn't care what people thought about me. When I turned 50, I realized nobody had been thinking about me all along. They had been thinking about themselves. Everybody's thinking about themselves. Don't worry about people thinking about you. That's number one. Even if they're talking about you, guess what? They're talking behind your back. What does that say to you? You're ahead of them. So don't worry about what people are going to talk about you, okay? So don't allow fear of criticism stop you. So there's fear of criticism, there's fear of failure. That's a big one. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. There's fear of failure. Believe it or not, there's also fear of success. Some people are afraid of success. So I was having a chat with this person who wanted to be a recording artist, but she didn't want to go on tour. She recognizes that going on tour is part of the package. How are you going to be a successful recording artist if you don't go on tour? So some people are afraid of success. They're focusing more on what they will give up than what they will gain with that success. We self-sabotage, basically. We self-sabotage because we don't play full out. We don't do what we're supposed to do. We procrastinate. We make excuses, you know. So all these thoughts prevent us from doing what we know we ought to do to get us where we want to go. So picture this. We have a picture in our minds of the future we want. So we have this goal. We want to get there. But what all these fears do is it prevents us from taking the necessary steps to get to where we want to go. Isn't that the truth? That for most people, the gap between the biggest gap in most people's lives is a gap between what they know and what they do. And some of these fears is what creates that gap. You know what to do, but you just don't do it because you're afraid if you do it, somebody might criticize you. You're afraid if you do it, you might fail. You're afraid if you do it, you might succeed. And then you don't know what to do with that. So those are three fears. Now, apart from fears, there are beliefs, things that we believe that also stops us from taking those steps. And one is the belief that you're not enough, the belief that you're incapable of doing what it is you say you want to do, the belief that you're not good enough, you don't know enough. And I know that I mean, trust me, I still struggle with that. Yeah, I was just sharing this morning. I've been in a women's meeting and I was sharing with them, and I was sharing just from my own personal experience, a project that I started recently, and how all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, I'm starting to, all these thoughts are coming to my mind, like, why do you think you can do that? What are your credentials? What are your credentials? But I also said to them, because I have been deliberate and intentional in developing myself, I've been intentional in investing in my own personal growth. Number one, I recognized those thoughts the minute they showed up. I was like, you're not going to get me. I know you sneaky little thing. You're not going to get me. So I recognized it. Number two, I had the tools to deal with it. So that's one of the beliefs. You know, you're not good enough. There's something lacking. There's something missing. There's something more that we need to have. Let me share very quickly with you how I started my business. Okay, very, very quickly. The long and short of it is I was looking for a job. Okay, I had been in a job in London. I had been heading a conveyancing department in my law firm, the law firm I was working in London. I had always wanted to have my own law practice, but for some reason, I just kept dithering. I just kept, hesitating. I just kept waiting for, I don't know what I was waiting for, but you know how it is, you're waiting for the right opportunity, waiting until you're good enough, waiting. I never consciously told myself I was waiting for anything, but subconsciously I was waiting. I was waiting. I went to this interview, cut the long story short again, I didn't get the job. I walked away and I said to myself, well, your loss, because I was disappointed, but at the same time, I really knew that I was capable. So capability wasn't my problem. But I just said to myself, your loss, I'm going to take my skills, my talent, everything, I'm going to take it somewhere else. But then this thought came into my mind, why are you going from place to place trying to convince others that you can do what you know you can do, but for their benefit, not yours? And I made my decision right there and then, I'm going to start my law practice. Now, this is a point I want to make. At that point in time, I did not attend any further training. I did not gain any additional knowledge. I did not suddenly have more money in the bank. Nothing changed for me apart from the fact that I made a decision. So if you're sitting there thinking you're not enough, you don't have enough, you need more, you need this, that, or the other, those are they're just excuses, seriously. You just need to start. Somebody said you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. That's what I'm going to say to you. So there's that belief of we're not enough. Number two, there's that thought for some people that they're not worthy. Some people feel they're not worthy of the higher good that they want in their lives. They feel they're not worthy of this ideal future that they want to create. Maybe because of past mistakes, past experiences, past failures. You cannot achieve it if you feel you're not worthy of it. So that's another belief. And it's false, by the way. It's false. You absolutely deserve it. Why? Because you're God's highest creation. And he put you on this earth to dominate, not to be dominated. So you absolutely are worthy of it. You are loved by your creator, and he thinks you're worthy. He thinks you're worth it. So you are worthy. Another lie is there's no point. There's no point. Again, that's one I had to contend with when I started my training and coaching practice. Because I thought, you see, before I got into the personal development space, I really didn't know what was there. But the minute I got, deliberately intentional about my personal growth, I thought, wow, everything I'm saying, everybody else is saying, everything, what more is there? There's so many voices already out there. What's the point? What's the point? What's the point of me doing what I say I want to do when there's so many people out there doing it? But there is a point, because I have a voice. I have a voice that nobody else has. I have experiences that nobody else has. The story I just told you of how I started my business, nobody else has that story. That's a story that's unique to me. So I have a voice that nobody else has. I have a way of expressing myself that is unique to me. So I have a unique voice. So do you. There are people that I will reach that will hear me, that will not hear the people I'm looking up to and thinking, oh, they're there. Why should little me go in that space? So definitely you are needed. Do you know how I know you're needed? Because you have a gift. If you have a gift, it's because you're supposed to use the gift. You cannot have a seed and hide it, in a box. The seed is meant to go in the ground so it can bear fruit. So if you have a seed, it's so that you can bear fruit. How are you going to bear fruit if you don't put the seed in the ground? So the fact that you have gifts that want to make, or that is inspiring you to do what it is, whatever it is you say you want to do, that tells me that it is needed. God does not waste space, okay? Number 4, imposter syndrome. Again, this is one I had to deal with. Imposter syndrome, quite similar to the last one I just mentioned. You're thinking, I'm wearing somebody else's shoes, So when I started to build my training and coaching business, and I would go to networking meetings, I didn't introduce myself as a solicitor, even though that I'd been a solicitor for over 30 years. I've been running my own law firm for 15 years. But when I go into meetings, I would introduce myself as a trainer and a coach. I'm a speaker, trainer, and coach. And I felt, no, you're not. No, you're not, because you haven't been on a big stage. Why are you introducing yourself as a speaker? So that's the imposter syndrome. Well, I'm a speaker. I don't have to have needed to speak in front of 1,000 people for me to be a speaker. I am a speaker. That's who I am. I'm a trainer. I'm a coach. That's who I am. Okay, so I had to deal with that idea of I'm an imposter. I'm not. That's who I am. And I want to say the same thing to you as well. If you're thinking, oh, I can't really do that, because no, you're not an imposter. So get rid of the imposter syndrome. So it causes us to self-sabotage. Now, before I bring Heidi on, I really wanted to just dwell on fear. And I wanted to specifically talk about fear of failure, because I know that is a big one, fear of failure. Obviously, we only have I have about 20 minutes to speak here, and I'm going to bring Heidi on. But I want to, if you're watching this now or watching it on replay, I want to invite you to a workshop that I'm running. It's free. It's completely free. The workshop I'm running on the 16th of July. I've put the information in the chat. It's a Thursday, 8 p.m. I'm not going to do it on this page. I'm doing it in my Facebook group. So I'm only doing it for the members of my Can Do Academy Facebook group. But if you would like to attend that workshop, it's a workshop on creating a new belief system. Because I know, I don't want to say I believe, I know that the difference between people who succeed and those who don't is just our belief system and the way we think. It's really is as simple as that. So my lifelong commitment is to keep challenging my beliefs and keep challenging the belief system that I have inherited perhaps from my parents, or allowed myself to develop as a result of the environments I grew up in or the experiences I've had. I've made a lifelong commitment to keep challenging my beliefs, because that is really where it all starts. And I want to help people who maybe are struggling in that area. Maybe there's something you want to achieve and you just found yourself, you keep coming back to square one, and you want to step out, you want to break out, but you just feel like you're stuck, and you just, like I said, keep one step forward, 2 steps backward kind of thing. Trust me, It's the belief. It's the belief system, but it can be changed. It can be changed. You can move from that defaulting place of defaulting to thinking you're not enough, for instance, to your default being, I'm more than enough. So I want to run this workshop. It is the 16th of July. And all you have to do is, if you're not a member of the Candle Academy group, just, I've put a link there, just click and join the group, and then you can have access to it. But before I bring Hayley, I want to talk about the fear of failure, the fear of failure. I think if we are able, last week I was talking about perception. I really think perception is a big deal. The way you see something is the way it will be for you. And I think the reason a lot of people are afraid of failure is because of the way they see failure. So if you're able to redefine failure and have a different perspective on failure, I really think it will help you not to be bound by it, but to really see it how you should see it, because failure is something that we cannot get away from. That's one of the things I'm going to be sharing with you right now. So I really think if we can get the right perspective on failure, it will help us so failure doesn't cripple us and prevent us from doing the things we know we can do to help us be, do, and have whatever it is we want in our lives. So I want to share with you very quickly five perception changes that we need to make about failure that will help us. Number one, accept that failure is unavoidable. Failure is unavoidable. Not only because, failure is unavoidable, definitely, if you want to succeed, because failure is part of success. You cannot, it is impossible for you to succeed at anything without failing first. Okay? But guess what? Failure is not only unavoidable for you if you're pursuing success, but it's unavoidable for everybody. There are lots of people who don't even have a goal. They haven't even deliberately, intentionally set a goal to say, I want to achieve this, but they still fail. We do it every day. We fail at something every day. So failure is part of life. So if we see it as that, then it removes the big stigma on it, because that's one of the reasons people are afraid of failure. They see it as there's a big stigma attached to it, but it's part of life. It's unavoidable. So if you know it's unavoidable, there's no point trying to avoid it, because again, the reason people don't take steps is because they're trying to avoid it. They're thinking, oh, I don't want to do that because I don't want to fail. But you can't avoid failure anyway. So just accept that. Number two, failure is not your enemy. Actually, failure is your friend. Failure is your friend. It comes, when failure happens, all it's telling you is that there's a lesson here to learn. Okay, so we're talking about redefining failure. Failure is not your enemy. It's actually your friend, because it's highlighting to you things that need to change. And it's a good friend. It's a good friend that tells you the truth. Okay, there's some people who tell you they're your friends, but they don't tell you the truth. Those are not real friends, are they? We want friends that are going to be honest with us. Yes, not beat us up and tear us down, but be honest with us. So failure is your friend, is not your enemy. Number three, there is really no failure, only lessons learned. Again, we're talking about redefining failure. So if instead of saying I failed, you say I learned a lesson. Do you see that's better? It rolls off the tongue better. It sits nicer with us, and it's absolutely the truth. It's absolutely the truth. So if you stop seeing it as failure and start seeing it as a lesson learned, then again, it takes away that fear. Why wouldn't you want to learn a lesson? Because like I said, all failure does is it shows you that there's something to learn here. There's something you're missing. There's something you haven't quite gotten yet. How many lessons did you have before you passed your driving test? How many tests did you have before you passed your driving test? You don't go around, of course we feel bad, we're disappointed because we really want to start to drive, but nobody ever feels that sort of shame, because it's common that, most people do more than one test before they pass. But it's just a lesson. You repeat the lesson until you pass. It's as simple as that. Number four, failure is not an event. And this is an important one. Failure is not an event. Let me explain what I mean. If you take a test, for instance, like I say, a driving test or an academic exam, and you get a result, that result does not encapsulate what happened in that moment of time. Okay, so it's not an event. All it does is it shows you that maybe over the last few weeks, over the last few months, running up to the exam, you were ill prepared. You didn't prepare as well as you could have. So failure is a process. It's a process. I'm talking about changing the way we see failure. Failure is a process. If you understand that failure is a process and not just an event, then hopefully that will motivate you to invest in your everyday, so that when that test comes, whenever it comes, you stand a better chance of passing, if that makes sense. So see failure not as an event, but as a process, and invest in your life, invest in your growth, invest in yourself, so that you're well prepared when that test comes, so that you don't have to take the lesson again. So you don't have to take the lesson again. And number 5, failure is not final. Aren't you glad about that? Failure is not final, but guess what? Giving up is. Failure is not final, but giving up is. So what that says to me is you fail only when you say you failed. Because if failure, you see, we isolate those instances, you know, we lose sight of the big picture. We lose sight of the big picture, and we look at this instance where I'm trying to do this particular thing and I'm not succeeding at it, and I say I failed. No, I haven't failed. When I look at the big picture, I haven't reached my goal yet, but the only time I fail is when I stop moving towards my goal. So I want you to remember that failure is not final, but giving up is. So hopefully with what I've shared with you today, you will be able to overcome that fear of failure, so that number 1, you can start, but also so that when you start, you can keep going on, because it's one thing to start, but it's another thing to finish. Okay. You're going to have to get rid of this idea of failure if you're going to start, but also if you're going to keep going on, because trust me, it's only a matter of time. You will have to learn those lessons, meaning you will not achieve what you set out to achieve, and somebody else might define it as failure. So I hope that's helped you. Like I said, on Thursday, the 16th of July, I'm going to be running a workshop on creating a new belief system. It's going to be powerful. I'm not just putting theories and principles together. I'm going to be showing you from my own experience how I've lived this out. So I'm not going to be reading a book and coming to regurgitate it to my audience. I'm going to be showing you that this works from my own real life experiences of how I've put it into practice. And you will be able to see how you can put it into practice to bring the change that you want about in your life.